Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Action Comics issue 1091, written by Mark Waid, with art by Skylar Patridge, colors by Ivan Placencia, and letters by Steve Wands. Superboy is arrested by the US military as in his fight with Rays, it was revealed that it was all a trap laid by General Sam Lane. Waid does a really great small superpower moment right off the bat here, as to prevent the military from recognizing Superboy, Clark vibrates his face at super speed, using his super breath to stir up some of the dusty debris from the fight with Rays to create a smoke screen, allowing him to escape back to Smallville unseen. Clark heads to his room and Ma and Pa come to see him, so he tells them all about what happened and how the military tried arresting him, something Martha knows they can't actually legally do. Clark tells them everything about Comet's message and how Rays was attacking the robotics lab, and he and the Kents begin suspecting that Captain Comet set Superboy up. Clark knows he'll find Adam Blake at school the next day and ask him, since the supposed hero cannot hide from him forever. Unfortunately, Clark can't hide either, not from Lana that is, as she catches up with Clark and demands an answer on why he left their supposed date the day before. Clark says that he had to help someone with a science project, and of course, Waid dives into the idea that Superman never really lies, and we see the beginnings of this here, where Clark knows that the trick is to tell at least some version of the truth, so that it never is an outright lie. And yeah, he technically was helping Magnus's science experiment and stopping someone from destroying it, so it is technically the truth. I like that explanation of the Superman can't lie concept, and it makes sense that it would be tackled in this way. He's technically not lying, but he's not telling the full truth either, since that would, out his secret identity. It's kind of that perfect in between. And really, that kind of is Superman, and the Superman concept needs to be. It needs to be that perfect in between of everything, and Mark Waid understands that fully. Things get worse for Clark when Kenny Braverman shows up and wants payback for Clark shoving him a couple of days back. Clark is about to let Kenny punch him and break his own hand, but luckily Pete Ross comes to Clark's aid, gaining Kenny's attention by de-escalating the situation when he asks Kenny about his mother's broken foot. This is a neat little bit of ball, as Pete, being just this charismatic and charming guy, is really what aided him in eventually getting involved with politics, and as we've seen, end up becoming the vice president to Lex Luthor back when he was president during the early 2000s Superman comics. It's a great addition by way to make him still this very likable guy. Like, everyone kind of likes Pete Ross. He's everyone's friend, and I like that he's being treated that way here. Pete quickly moves Clark and Lana out of the hallway and away from Kenny, and later Clark confronts Adam Blake, asking him directly if he knew about the army trying to arrest him. Blake doesn't deny it, saying that he was the one who actually sent them in. Before he can get any more info though, Clark and Adam sense a man falling off a cliff nearby. Heroes rush to help him, and Comet reveals this is actually another test, wanting to see how Clark deals with problems he can't punch, and also earn the trust of those he helps. Clark saves the man, and he is very grateful, and Clark wants to know how any of this helps him, since Comet made him a wanted man. Comet knows that the hero will figure something out, or he'll just spend the rest of his life as a farmhand on the run from the US military. Clark's frustration with Captain Comet really comes off the page really well. Like, everything the alien hero is doing is just a big test. He's kind of like gauntlet running him through all of this sort of stuff, and Clark doesn't feel like he's got a connection to the guy either. This guy he probably should have a connection to, because he too is, alien from a far off world. He's trapped on Earth. You'd think they'd form some sort of kinship, but Comet doesn't seem like the type of guy who wants any of that, and Clark's a little bit sad about that. He's a little bit disappointed, and he's also highly suspicious that this guy is up to something. The next day, Clark's biology class has to dissect some frogs. Clark doesn't like this one bit, since he's a little squeamish at seeing frog guts, and it's not because it's all part of his bumbling secret identity. It's because his powers allow him to sense living things and the warm glow around them. However, dead things look colorless and ugly to him, so it makes him sad. Clark's super senses are one of the things I find is the most underdeveloped of his powers. Writers don't really do much with them, because it is really something that's, you can't really do visually. With super strength, you can show him punching something, lifting something, heat vision, lasers in the eyes, but super senses like him smelling something or him just sensing something, that's not really a visual power. So I can see why writers don't really like using it, but I like what Wade is doing here and how he's broaching that Superboy's senses can detect like dead atoms and he can like see them, and like what would that do to Superboy? It would make him very sad, it seems. He doesn't like seeing death and decay, and I like that. I quite like that idea that that's one of his powers that we don't get to see all that much. Pete notices Clark going green, so he takes over, wanting Clark to act like he's just paying attention. After cutting the frog open, Pete finds that the frog died of liver disease, even though the frog looked outwardly healthy. Their teacher, Miss Taylor, tells them that some diseases are not immediately obvious, and thanks to Clark's super senses, he can smell the decaying frog, but amongst all the death and decay, he smells a familiar scent, something which actually jogs his memory. After school, Clark goes to visit Captain Comet, who is running tests in his home garage. Clark tells him that when he first appeared, Ma and Pa said they knew who Comet was, as he was an old hero, but he retired from being a hero, and no one thought to ask why. Since last anyone heard from him, he was part of the Justice Alliance, but then they disbanded, and while some other members went on to other solo careers, Comet all but disappeared. Clark asks him a pretty reasonable question, which is Comet has been going on about how he is a hero and knows what a hero is, yet he just gave up being a hero back when the Justice Alliance was disbanded, so Clark believes he wouldn't do that without a good reason. I'm glad we are finally getting a proper conversation between Adam and Clark, since it feels like since that first meeting, they haven't really interacted with one another, and that's really just because Comet has been kind of pitting Clark against all these tests and disappearing, but I'm glad that it's finally happening, that there's just some sort of interaction going on with them. Comet wants to do this later, but Clark doesn't think there'll be a later, since he knows something was off with Adam, and his biology class reminded him of something about diseases, and how things like diabetic alert dogs can sense their owner's blood sugar getting low, or how even some dogs can sniff out cancerous cells. Clark believes that he has done something similar with Adam, as he could tell Adam was sick with something, but he doesn't know what. Adam is caught off guard by Clark's investigating, having underestimated him, but it's something that he wanted to tell Clark for a long time but never knew how to. Adam explains that during his travels amongst the stars, his body began seizing up, giving Adam agonizing pain, and eventually whatever this disease that he is inflicted with will break down his powers until they are nothing. He knows nothing can cure it, and it's the sole reason he has been pushing Clark as much as he has, learning about Clark's ship crashing years earlier and has been watching him ever since. And once Clark started putting on a costume and helping people, he knew it was time to move to Smallville to help Clark set up. So this really recontextualizes everything Comet has been doing. He's not some holier-than-thou super alien who thinks that he's better than humans. He's just trying to force Clark to become something better than he ever was, and he's only got a small amount of time to do it, so he's rushing through all the stuff that he would probably take his time to do if he had it. That makes Comet a much more interesting and three-dimensional character, and a bit of a sad character. He knows he's going to die, and he's just trying to make a world that is safe with a hero on it. We saw the story a couple of issues ago where he saw many worlds that were decimated by their young teen heroes because they didn't have control over that power, and he wants to prevent that on at least one world before he dies. Clark is sorry that he and anyone else can't do anything about the disease, but notices Comet's ship, wondering why he doesn't go back out into the galaxy to search for a cure. Adam reveals that the ship's alien fuel has ran out, so he's stuck on Earth for as long as he has left to live. Clark gets an idea though, learning that the ship doesn't have enough fuel to escape Earth's velocity, but it does have enough for space travel, so he wants to fly the ship into space, toss it in the direction that Adam needs. Adam doesn't want to do that, since the world will need Clark to be his best and wisest, so he needs to stay and help Clark become that. Clark becomes angry as he won't let Adam just give up and die. Still, Adam refuses, and despite Clark really wanting to force him into the ship, he leaves him alone, telling the man that it's his life to live, or in this case, die with. So as it turns out, this was just Adam's final test for Clark, telling the boy that when he grows up, he'll be the most powerful being in the world, and will be able to to do anything he wants and no one will be able to stop him, and if he wanted to, he could impose his will on anyone. Clark immediately knows that would be wrong though, and that's what Adam was looking for, wanting to get ready to leave in his ship, since he knows Clark is going to be okay. See, this is the good stuff, Clark proving that he's a good hero, not by the saves he does or how he defeats a villain with his powers, but how he treats life and how to him all life is sacred and he wants to try everything in his immense power to save it. And he knows maybe he won't be able to do that for everyone, but he's still going to try. That's Superman through and through, and Wade just gets it. Clark thinks that Adam's test was fair, but he still has to deal with the US military thanks to what Adam did. Although Adam knows that sooner or later, Clark would have to tangle with the government, but he's got faith that Superboy will win the day. Clark grabs Captain Comet's very heavy ship and flies it up into space, thanking Adam for caring, but Comet knows that that's the job, although Clark already knows that. Captain Comet wishes Superboy good luck as the hero throws the ship into space and into the unknown. So while there is hope there in Clark's future, there's a bit of sweetness to it as well, since what will become of Captain Comet? Will he die? Will he succeed in his mission and cure himself? I really do hope that Wade has a story for him somewhere in his back pocket for the future, whether that be we go find out what happens or Captain Comet comes back to Earth. But I also kind of like that it's left ambiguous, like maybe he's out there, saving another teenage hero from becoming a despot, or he's off being a hero on a far off world himself, learning what he learned from Superboy. There's a million different ways you could go with this, and I'm intrigued to see if Mark Waid actually does something with it. Action Comics issue 1091 finished out the Captain Comic art for Mark Waid's story, and I gotta say, it was really satisfying. It had some great drama, both for Superboy and for Clark Kent. It explores Clark's early powers and how he figured out how to use them properly. And we get some cool setups with future arcs as well, with the military, obstacles Clark's going to have to face very soon. The recontextualization of Captain Comet and his tests for Clark was so great, and that reveal at the end of why he was doing all this and why he needed to do it so quickly and so forcefully was fantastic and very compelling. And I like that it swerved away from the evil tropey, evil former mentor storylines that comics are seemingly racked with these days. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10, and tell me what you thought about the issue in the comments below. And remember to like and subscribe.